Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making a vinyl record clock. Well, I thought that what I would do for this week's show is take an old vinyl record and basically cut it to make a decorative wall clock. And I thought that I would use the images from a classic Queen album. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to get some records. So I headed to my local thrift store and was able to pick up a bunch of albums for 99 cents a piece. I got 4 of them just in case I should screw one up. I guess someone didn't like their Gordon Lightfoot collection, and honestly, my dad would be horrified if he ever saw that I was going to cut up a Roger Whittaker album. But either way, what we need to do now that we have our albums is we need to drill out our center hole, and that will be for our clock movement. Well, I went on Amazon and I was able to purchase a 4-pack of these clock movements, including the arms, for roughly about $5 a motor. But the center hole of a regular album is just slightly too small for this threaded shaft. So what I need to do is I need to get a twist bit and drill this out to be 5/16 of an inch. And we will just confirm that our motor shaft does in fact fit through our album, and it does. So what we need now is we need to take this entire album and we're going to coat both sides with masking tape. In order to get the masking tape to stick a little easier, we're in a woodworking shop. I mean, there's bound to be dust that's going to get on this record. So just use a rag and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and that will clean this up enough to accept our masking tape with no problems. Why put it on both sides? Well, because I want to be able to have the bottom side give a little extra friction without scratching and giving the resistance of our album. So we'll just coat it with masking tape on the both sides. All right, and with that done, we now need to make our cutting patterns. Well, we need to make a pattern now in order to be able to cut this design out of the vinyl record. So what I have done is I have printed out using my computer the album cover, and I have it here on top of our shop-made light table. From there, I also have a second piece of paper laid on top. Now, I have shown you guys before how to make scroll saw patterns, and this is basically the same process, except it's opposite. In other words, the last time that we did this, we drew out our scroll saw pattern concentrating on the dark areas or the shadows. This one is different in that we are going to concentrate on the light areas. So by very carefully picking out the light areas on, in this case, Freddie Mercury's face, we can draw around all of the perimeter. Now you'll want to make sure that you're not leaving any areas floating that will have nothing attached, so that when you cut it out, they will be gone. In other words, you cannot just have a little black piece floating in the middle of your light pieces, because that black piece will fall out. You have to ensure that you have some form of connecting lines. So what I'm going to do is carry on, trace around, just Freddie Mercury in this case, and I'll show you what it looks like when we have it all traced out. Now, believe it or not, it's not going to look like much, and it really doesn't look like much until after you get it cut. And when you're done tracing it, what you end up with is something that looks like this. Now, this will be the Freddie Mercury of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this white little piece of paper here, and I will carry on and make the cutting pattern for each one of the members of the band. Well, I wasn't really pleased with the size of my original patterns, and I don't want to use my originals. I want to save them just in case I mess up. So I took them in to the scanner and I enlarged them by 125%. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these photocopies of my pattern and I'm going to lay them out on the clock the way that I see fit, the way I want them to sit here. And once I get them where I want them, I'm going to use spray adhesive and I'm going to apply them to this album right on top of that masking tape. And at this point, we can take it over to the drill press and drill all of our blade entry holes. Once all those holes are finished, I'll see you over at the scroll saw. Well, here in the saw, I have installed quite possibly, I believe it's the smallest spiral blade you can get on the market. And that would be a number 2 spiral blade. And what we're going to do is essentially, we are going to go through each one of our patterns here, and using the spiral blade, we will very carefully cut this out. Now I've reduced the speed of the saw down to about 1/3 of its full power. The reason for that is we don't want to melt the vinyl, we just want to cut it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys get the idea there. I'm going to go through and cut all of these out, and then I'll show you what to do from there. Well, I just have the Freddie Mercury image cut, and I just wanted to show you this so you know what to expect. And while this doesn't look like much, let me just put the light on in behind it here. And now you can see the Freddie Mercury. But you can also see burring. Vinyl has a habit of doing this. It's very easy to get in here with a pick or a dental tool, even the end of a small X-Acto knife, and you can very easily clean this up. So just be careful with it. It can be fragile. And also, as a bit of information, I dropped my saw down to 25%, 1/4 power, because you really do not want to melt this vinyl. You want it to cut. So go nice and slow and give the saw blade time to clear out the, I don't even want to call them shavings, because they're kind of like a weird powder. But as you can see here, it's very easy to get in with a pick. I have these dental picks that I love to use to clean up scrollings. And you can get in here. I'm not rubbing hard at all. You can get in here and you can clean up those fuzzies, but look how amazing that looks. So let me get the rest of the band done and cleaned up, and then I'll show you what you ended up with. Okay, well, I've done with the sanding and the filing of this album, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's quite the process to get most of the fuzzy edges off. I'm not sure if that's created through the spiral blade or if that is created due to the fact that the vinyl doesn't like to necessarily be cut. It kind of gets furry even at that slow speed. But either way, through a combination of those picks and an X-Acto knife and a little bit of a small file, I was able to get it cleaned up to where I was happy with it. And you can't really see it right now, but the image looks amazing. But here's the problem. You can't have a classic Queen album with a Roger Whittaker label. I mean, as much as my dad would love this, I don't think it's going to happen. So what I have done is I have gone on the internet and found a photo of the original album label artwork, and I have placed it into Lightburn. I have changed it and modified it to make it into a burn, and then using the Wainlux L6 laser, I am engraving and cutting a new wooden label to fit over top of this Roger Whittaker one. I'm going to use 1/8 inch thick maple, and I'll show you what the end result of that is once I get that cut. Alright, so let's just see what we've got here. Oh my. That looks awesome. Okay, so at this point now we can get involved with the assembly of our clock. So let's head over to the other side of the bench where we're not crowded in by the laser, and I'll show you how to put this thing together. Well, the very first thing I want to do is with a soft cloth and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, I'm just going to clean the album very carefully here. We're going to get our fingerprints and the sawdust off of it. Guys, just be very careful as you're rubbing around these cuttings that you don't accidentally hook on a cutting and snap it off. Truth be told, I already broke off Freddie Mercury's mouth here and had to glue it back on, but they are or can be very fragile, so just be careful. All right, so once we get that cleaned up, I have a little piece of butcher paper down here, and this is strictly to keep sawdust off the album that we just cleaned. So we'll just place our label that we laser engraved right in the middle there. Look at how awesome that looks. That looks amazing. Okay, and what I have is I've taken a piece of 1/16 inch thick hardboard. I've cut an 11.5 inch diameter circle, and I have used spray adhesive to attach some white cardstock to it. Now, I could have painted it, but if you've ever tried to paint hardboard, they don't really like to accept paint very well. So I went with the cardstock option. And we'll just line up these holes, and just look at the way that makes those images really jump out. That just looks incredible. So what we're going to do now is we need to insert our motor in through the back of our 5/16 diameter hole. So these motor kits will come with everything that you need to assemble this, including 4 sets of different arms, but they come with these rubber washers, and the purpose of these rubber washers is to go right here between your motor and your backboard here to keep it from sliding around. So we're just going to place that there. Then we can take our album, slap that on top. Well, don't slap it, but you know what I mean. Just like that. We're going to take our label and then one brass washer, just like that, and then the brass nut that comes with it. Okay, and now we will tighten this down, and arrange it the way that we want, making sure that our label is on squarely and that it's pointing up at 12 o'clock. I want Brian May at 12 and Freddie Mercury at 6. So we'll get this all tightened down and then I'll show you what to do from there. Well, we now want to place our hour hand on here. It's just a friction fit. So we'll get that hour hand on there and give it just a little wipe, get the fingerprints off of it. And our minute hand can go on. Now we're purposely aiming for the 12 here to get everything lined up. Really like how solidly those fit. All right, I'll add the second hand later. Now, what we're going to do is I have said that we're going to make Brian May 12 and come around, that sort of thing. So we have the band members at 12, 3, 6, and 9. But at 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 11, I have laser cut these small circles. And what I want to do is right out here, I just want to glue a wooden circle in place at each one of the hours. So what we're going to do, the way you can do this and know where to place them is right now we're happy with that at 12 o'clock. There's no question about that. So we will rotate this around carefully 1 hour. And then where this hour hand points out here, glue one of your circles there. And then come around to the 1 hour mark again, line it up and glue the next hour in place, just like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a piece of masking tape here where Brian May is with a line on it so that we know that we're lining up exactly at that 12 each time. And then when we come around, of course we can skip by 3. We'll come around then all the way and do 4, add another dot. And we're going to go all the way around. I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy, so I'm not going to be filming it because I'm going to be working rather quickly so that the epoxy doesn't set on me. But I'm going to get all of these mounted and that will pretty much finish up our project. So let me get that done and I'll show you what we have, and man, this is going to be awesome. And when you get it all assembled, guys, that looks absolutely incredible. I love this. This is fantastic. That is going to look so awesome hanging in my office. It's not even funny. Guys, you got to give this one a try. And there you have it. A vinyl record clock. Guys, oh my goodness. This turned out better than I ever thought it would. I just absolutely love the way this turned out. Everything about it. That kit with all the clocks that I got, there was 4 motors, 4 sets of arms, 4 hangers, blah, 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 blah. There are 4 different sets of arms. So there are plain black ones, which would not have gone well with this clock. There was just the plain brass ones, which I used. There were fancier ones, but I didn't want to take away from the images that I cut out of that vinyl record. Now, truth be told, some of you out there are probably wondering, Kenny, you got that laser. Why did you not cut this with your laser? Truth be told, this originally was in my mind to have as a laser cut project. And I was going to bring it to you to showcase another project that the Wainlux L6 could do. Unfortunately, however, well, I guess not unfortunately, it's fortunate. Guys, it's great to experiment with a laser. It's great to want to try new things. But before you cut something new, you want to do your research. And after doing some research, before I ever touched this project, while I was still in the thought process of it, I realized that there are certain materials that you just should not laser cut. ABS plastic, PVC, like polyvinyl chloride, and vinyl is another one. Leatherette is another one. The reason being that in the process of their manufacture, they use chlorine. So in these products, vinyl record, is chlorine inside this thing. Now the problem is that once you start cutting in and melting and burning chlorine, that smoke that comes off, that's chlorine gas. Chlorine gas. They use this stuff in the World Wars, guys. This is not a good thing to have running around your shop. Not only that, under certain atmospheric conditions, that chlorine gas can turn to hydrochloric acid. That is both horrible for you, like deadly horrible, as well it is also very corrosive to your laser. So best case scenario, you destroy your laser and it completely corrodes everything inside because you've got hydrochloric acid in there. Worst case scenario, you get deathly ill because you've now ingested hydrochloric acid or you've ingested chlorine gas. So do your research if you're going to be playing around with different materials. So because of that, I was able to lower the speed on the scroll saw and cut the designs out with no worry about safety to me, because there was no burning, there was no melting, there was no smoke. It's just a cut, a little fuzzy cut, which we had to clean up, but a cut nonetheless. Either way, that's why it didn't become a laser cut project. But I was able to utilize the detail of the L6 to do that amazing label. I love the way that looks, the way that really brought this project to the next level. And without that laser engraver, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I'm really glad I was able to utilize this for this project because it really brought it out that much more. Now, truth be told, I think I may replace that white backboard. I may end up taking another piece of the hardboard, priming it, and giving a nice coat of gloss white or something. I'm not really a fan of the cardstock. I like the matte look of it, but I don't know its longevity. So for now, it's going to hang in my office. I'll see how it goes, and if it starts to yellow over time, I may just end up replacing it. That's no big deal. Either way, guys, this is a fantastic project. If you have a laser, or even if you don't, you could wood burn easily that label for the center. It would be so cool. Or print one up and use spray adhesive and stick it over top of the Roger Whittaker. Either way, it's a win. What a project. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in this week. This one's been a lot of fun. It was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants. I wasn't really sure what was happening, how things were going to come together, but those are some of the best projects because when they do come together, you get that wow factor and you really enjoy it. So just give it a try. If you've got an idea in your head and you're not sure how it's going to work out, get out in the shop and give it a whirl. If it works out, great. If not, you probably learned something from it, and what have you got to lose? If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click that bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the content. I hope you're going to try this one for yourself. And more importantly, I really hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.